Welcome back to Edgework here on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Today is Friday, June 2nd. We are getting ready for Game 1 of the 2023 Stanley Cup Finals. And if you haven't already checked out our series preview, I urge you to go and do that after the show here today. As you can see, So Money, myself, and Alex B. Smith dig into the series price, the matchup, as well as our favorite picks and our series predictions for the Stanley Cup Finals. And when you go and watch that, you're going to notice that the series price that we're referring back to is the sharpest price that you can find, and that will be at the Pinnacle Sportsbook. And that is because Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook and available to bettors in Ontario. You can find out what professional bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus in Ontario. Please play responsibly. Not available in the US. And if you are looking to sign up for Pinnacle and you're watching on YouTube right now, you can scan that QR code in the bottom corner of the screen beside the Pinnacle logo. You'll see that you can scan that and sign right up for Pinnacle right away. If not, if you're watching, you can click on the link in the chat as well as the link in the description of this video, either if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening back on podcasts, to be able to go and sign up for all new sports books. For any sports books that you don't have already, clicking that link, scanning that QR code, it does help support the show. But guys, looking at that series price, let's look into this quickly here. We looked at it yesterday in the preview show. We were seeing Vegas minus 114, Florida minus 102. We've seen a little bit of movement to where we're at right now, still according to Pinnacle. Vegas minus 117, Florida currently sitting at plus 101. Rob, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on where the series price is at right now and kind of that little bit of movement that we've seen over the last 24 hours since we recorded yesterday's series preview, and maybe if you have a side that you fall towards just in terms of the series price in general.
It feels a little bit short to me in terms of the Vegas price, but to be candid with the audience, I have no idea what Sergei Bobrovsky we're going to get in this playoff. So I've run a bunch of different simulations for this series, depending on like what level Bobrovsky could be at. And like if he plays at the level he's played so far in this playoffs, I think potentially you can make argument that Florida should be favored in the series, but we don't really know. And like this is a guy that didn't even start the playoffs as their goalie because he had been so bad down the stretch, really hasn't had a good season in 5 years, and now he has seemed to have regained his form. But honestly, I priced this closer to Vegas minus 125-ish with what I think Bobrovsky is right now or is most likely to be in the finals. Pains me to say that. I'll be rooting for the Panthers personally because of some personal bets that I've made in the past. But it's also like a very interesting makeup between these two teams because I think Vegas is much more balanced, but I think Florida is like pretty deep. Like the bottom of Florida's lineup always concerns me, right? Like the third and fourth line, like their last two defensemen. I don't have those same concerns that I do for Vegas, but I do like the top end talent for the Panthers better than I like Vegas's top end talent. So I'm just hoping we get a good series. I think the semifinals, the conference finals were a bit of a dud both ways. And I honestly think that this will be a good series. I think that these teams are very close to evenly matched. You see the series price shows that, but if I did have to bet something, I would lay the favorite here.
And so, Money, when we did the preview yesterday, you were kind of saying that you felt that this price was fair. Are you surprised at all to see the movement that we've seen over the last day? Do you still think it's about where you thought it would be or where you would expect it to be?
Um, I'm not. I'm not surprised that Vegas has taken some money. I think that in like the marketplace, especially after that, after what they did to Dallas, I think that that it's not surprising that the market would back Vegas here, and also Florida throughout their Cup run. I mean it's hard for me to say that the team has been disrespected because I mean like you just you you just bet at where the market is and what you think your fair price is, right? You're not respecting or disrespecting anybody, right? But Florida hasn't taken on a lot of money, right? Throughout these playoffs, we saw they were heavy dogs against Boston as they should have been. They were heavy dogs against Toronto as they should have been. Carolina doesn't necessarily command a lot of money in the market, so Florida kind of went below the surface there in that series, and now against the Vegas team who beat the high flying Oilers, our Oilers, and then they beat they beat the Stars as well, right? So like those are high profile teams heading into the playoffs, and Vegas beat them. So it's not surprising to me that Vegas has taken some money here.
Florida hasn't really played well in the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
Like, listen, like I know they're in the finals, and I know like the path of the teams they beat. It really doesn't get much harder than Boston, Toronto, Carolina to get to the Cup. So you have to give them credit for that. But essentially, if we just break down the Panthers playoffs, they've won like a lot of coin flips is what it comes down to, which happens. I mean, we've seen like the best team doesn't always win the Stanley Cup. Teams get lucky en route, and that's like not a disrespect to Florida, but they haven't played particularly well. It's not like they've been even the sweep. Like everybody was getting on Rod Brindamore, right? For the comments, like we didn't get. I know exactly what he meant by that.
yeah,
Like I know I watched those games just like he did. Like that should have been like a 2-2 series by the end of game 4. It wasn't a 4-0 series. So I know exactly what he meant. And that's kind of just been Florida this playoffs, pulling out close wins. I just wonder if that like runs out at some point. How many coin flips? I mean, Chris Moneymaker did it to win a World Series of Poker, but since then I haven't seen a team win so many coin flips or an individual person win so many coin flips. And Vegas to me has been, they've looked the part. You look at game 1, game 6 against Dallas, like they slaughtered the Stars in those games. There's a couple games against the Oilers where they looked very good. It's not just been, eking out these tight wins in which, they have a goalie stand on their head. And that's not, again, Aiden Hill's been solid, but it does feel like Vegas, the way that they've got there has been actually more impressive, despite the fact that Florida's now won like 8 of 9 games against the Leafs and the Hurricanes. They did so in just all these close games, essentially, except with the exception of game 3 against Toronto, I would say.
yeah, and like just to to touch on that too, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like you it's the playoffs. You win the way that you can, any way that you can, right? We've seen a Habs team win 10 overtime games in a playoff run, right? Like these kind of things happen, right? So and Rob doesn't want to hear that, but I mean,
take my headphones out. You can keep going so much.
Yeah, Zach as well, right?
Done,
let's just make the show about the Habs right now, right? So
oh god, I want viewership. I don't want everyone to drop off immediately. There'll be one person left watching. It'll be Moretto, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're looking at the Florida team and the teams that they've taken down so far and who they're going to go up against next. Just go to the NHL league standings, sort by top to bottom. I mean, you look at Boston 1, Carolina 2. Carolina obviously had to take out New Jersey to move on, but then the Leafs next, and now you're looking at Vegas 5th. Like they're going to face 4 of the top 5 teams in the league from the regular season. That's their pathway to a Cup Finals. So, hey. If you take down the best, then at what point can you not be considered the best? I think that's the way to look at it there. Nebraska knows some stuff mentioning in the chat here, and I think this is a good piece of advice for people. If you guys are watching right now and you haven't subscribed here on the Edgework HQ YouTube channel, make sure to do so. While you're at it, hit that like button here on this stream. Hit that like button. and help out support the show. It does help us get to more viewers so that we can continue producing more content like this. Same piece of advice goes to those who are listening back on podcasts. Maybe you can't like this specific episode, but you definitely can subscribe, rate, and review. Give us that 5-star review there, whether on whatever platform you're listening on. It does help us reach more viewers, reach more listeners. So thank you for the support. Appreciate that.
And
But,
can I just say that Rob has been telling people to like smash the like button to get a new mouse. I think at this point most people have bought their new mouse or mice or whatever. I think at this point you need to smash it so hard you need a new desk, right? Just keep smashing that.
And set notifications, obviously, people as well.
Yes.
Like people messaging all the time, what time's the show or whatever. You set notifications, you just get an alert when the show goes live, and that's it.
Yep.
So that's simple.
Yeah, and then you don't miss anything. I think that's the way to do it, as well as when videos come out, you get notified right away when videos come out. So even if it isn't a live show, you want to see the series preview, comes out, there you go. Instant notification that series previews come out. But guys, we'll look ahead to game one here. And for those interested in the playoff schedule of what we're going to be doing, for the most part, we'll be looking ahead at these games a day in advance. That is obviously Monday will be a different story. We'll look at that one the day of the game. But other than that, we'll be looking a day ahead at each of these games because lines are out, player props are out, so we can get a jump on some of these. So for that explains why we're doing the show here today on the Fridays. We're looking ahead to tomorrow. So let's get into tomorrow's game. Game one of the Stanley Cup Finals for this year. Currently what we're looking at in terms of, we'll go money line and then into the total and then player props. Right now, Florida on the road for game one, plus 110. Vegas currently sitting minus 124. You can find that at Pinnacle. So if you're looking to get on that price at Pinnacle, scan that QR code, hit the link in the description. But Pinnacle best price on Vegas, they're minus 124. So Money, go to you first here. Currently, we've done the series preview in terms of where you're looking at series prices and how we felt about those, dug into some of the Conn Smythe or most goals scored markets, but now on a game-to-game basis, Vegas minus 124 in game one. You feel like this is a fair price for game one? Do you see any value on either side here?
I think it's fair, and it's been up for a couple of days, so it's been bet into place nicely and stuff, right? Like I'm nothing has changed from the preview for me. I think that these are evenly matched teams, and then you throw in a little home ice for Vegas. So I think that that's the reason where we are right now with the side. I think to Rob's point, it's really hard right now with all the days off in between, especially for a guy like Bobrovsky, who generally speaking throughout his career like needs a routine, and now you've given him 10 days off. So I think that if you subscribe to the notion that maybe his play dips a bit because of the time off, maybe you want to look at the over, but then I look at the price in the over and it's already at up to minus 115. So I think that unknown has already been accounted for. So for the side and the total, I'm going to be enjoying the game. I'll just be watching. And like I mentioned in the preview, like I'm really looking forward to watching this from a hockey fan perspective. Of course, game by game, if the market adjusts too much to what we saw in the previous game, I'll be involved. But for the side and total for game one, I'll be sitting it out.
All right, fair enough. Rob, are you on the same page as So Money here for that?
I am. So he brought up a couple of good points. One is that the market's been open for a long time now. The limits are fairly high in this. You're not going to get substantial value. I know that there's possibly only 7 hockey games. I mean, it's possibly only 4 hockey games left in the year, and everybody wants to bet, the side and total in these games. But I think this is a fairly good price. The one thing I will say too is I had considered the over. I don't think the rest. So let's start with the rest situation for Florida. Typically speaking, long rest in the NHL hurts a team more than it helps a team. If you just look at data points, we actually see the bye weeks in the NHL now as well, where teams get full weeks off. Those first games back, they look very sluggish. They don't perform well from an actual goals perspective, but expected goals, chance creation, longer stretches tend to be, hurt the team more than it actually helps the team. And Florida had a lot of momentum. I wonder if that's something that, is a factor here in game one. I make Vegas a bigger favorite in game one than I do in game two. just because of the rest situation going into the game. So that's one thing for me, but I'm pretty close to being on market here. The second, I would typically like the over in this type of spot as well. So Money made a great point about Bobrovsky, right? And like routine, and now having so long off in between. I wonder about the disruption to a goalie that's been super hot, having that long break, killing momentum again. I don't think that's a narrative. It's been backed in stats in the past as well. But the one thing about the Stanley Cup Game 1, there's someone on Twitter called Cam Charon. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he's very good follow, generally speaking. And he's mapped out like penalties called by game over the course of the playoffs in history. And Game 1, Stanley Cup Finals, is like a let it go type of game, right? And if I want to bet overs, I'm looking for power plays. And typically what's happening, if you look at the trends for Game 1, 5, 6, and 7, refs tend to eat their whistle. 2, 3, and 4, they tend to call everything. I don't know if that's like instruction by the league or, them just letting the guys play to set the tone of the series in Game 1. But typically speaking, Game 1 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, we do not see a lot of penalties called. And that's just like another factor working against the over here. So, if you forced me to bet something in Game 1, I would bet Vegas in the over. But I do not have enough of an opinion there. And I think that there's so much uncertainty in my number right now based off of like the 10 days off. There's just too much work in, I need to watch this Game 1 and see how it goes down, basically.
Fair enough.
What a show. No plays. Let's go.
Oh, I got some prop. I'm ready to fire some prop darts. I'll tell you that.
I got a goal score prop,
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So no plays in the side or the total there. A little bit of uncertainty leads us to not jump in on anything. And if you followed along with the show all year, you know that we're not just gonna force plays for the sake of forcing plays. So nothing there. But guys, you got some player props. So Money, I'll go to you first. Player prop that you're looking at for tomorrow's game. What is it and why? So
I brought him up in the preview and how I'm so bullish on Jonathan Marchessault. So I think that with Bobrovsky, even Carolina, Carolina and Toronto weren't able to do this, and that is get traffic in front of the net, right? Like he's considered a smaller goalie. Like he needs to you need to get him to look around players, right? And they didn't do neither Carolina nor Toronto did a good job getting in front of the net. I think that all of that changes with the way that Vegas plays. They have no problem starting from down low. They have no problem generating chances from the cycle. They have no problem getting dirty in front of the net, right? We saw that against the Oilers as well. So, and Jonathan Marchessault is the perfect kind of guy right now. I have him to lead the series in scoring, and I also like him to score in Game 1. So I think I saw a 2-1. I played it at just under 2-1. So I think that Marchessault there to score a goal is what I've bet.
All right, so Marchessault anytime goal scorer plus 180, best price available. So Money, what is the lowest price that you'd be willing to play this at here if we do see any movement or anything like that over the next 24 hours, I guess, plus leading into Game 1?
Yeah, I actually wouldn't play it lower than the 180. I think we're good there.
Okay, there you go. So we will lock that in here as our first play. Rob, you've got some goal scorer props that you're looking at for us?
Well, let's keep it on Marchessault here first for now, and then we'll go into the goal scorer. So me and So Money don't talk prior to the show. We go in with like our own set of mind and whatever. I like Jonathan Marchessault over 3.5 shots on goal in this game. It's a pretty decent plus money price. Plus 125s are like widely available in market for Marchessault. So there's a couple factors that are playing into it here. If someone looks at Marchessault's game log against Seattle, they're going to see that he never went over against Dallas. He never went over 3.5 shots on goal in any of those games. 2 shots, 3, 3, 3, 2. Go back to the Edmonton series, 6 shots, 5, 6, 6, 7, 4. I think this is more likely to play closer to the Edmonton series than it is to the Dallas series. Florida does give up a lot of opportunities. If you look at the Panthers over the course of the playoffs, there's only been 3 games where they've given up less than 30 shots on goal. 2 of those were game 3 and game 4 against Toronto, where I think it was more to do with Toronto style of play than it was Florida's, where they were just playing basically with a third man up high and not really getting a lot of shots through because the Leafs didn't want to give up any odd man rushes. So I think Vegas is going to generate a lot of shots in this game, and that is very conducive to Jonathan Marchessault, who leads them in the playoffs in shots per 60, in Corsi per 60, in Fenwick per 60. He gets a lot of pucks to the net, gets a lot of ice time on the power play. So I honestly think that this 3.5 should be priced at like plus 100. I think it's more of a coin flip. You get plus 125. I'll play that one for a half unit. Uncertainty in game 1 is kind of why I'm going with the half units here. But that's pretty widely available, and literally any price on the board right now, as Zach has it up on the screen, I think is worth a bet, considering I make it a coin flip. So I'll piggyback So Money here. Hopefully that fourth shot for Marchessault goes in the back of the net. That would be the. You know what? I should say the first one, So Money, so you don't have to sweat. You know.
I was just gonna say that, right? Like, I think I don't like sweating. Like, I want that first goal to go in.
I'm just worried if the first one goes in, it gives them the lead. They might build up a lead and then is a little more defensive. But that's one that I like there for anytime goal scorer. Anyone who's watched over the course of the season on the Friday episode where I give out like an anytime goal scorer, it's very clear what I like to look at. It's players that I think that have just basically gotten unlucky relative to their individual expected goals. So if we look at these two teams and I asked people to guess who has the highest individual expected goals of any single player coming into this series, you would get a lot of Matthew Tkachuk guesses. You'd get some Jonathan Marchessault. You might get some Jack Eichel or Sam Reinhart. The person with the highest individual expected goals at 7.46 in this playoffs is Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett has 7.46 individual expected goals. He only has 4 goals. That means he's shooting just over 7%. Now, Sam Bennett is not a sniper. He's not a guy that's going to shoot like 15%. His career numbers, though, are above 10%. His numbers in the regular season this year were above 9%. He's getting a lot of good looks. He plays power play 1. He plays on a line with Matthew Tkachuk, where he's going to get opportunities. He's priced in the range right now of plus 220 to get a goal in game 1. I think that's pretty solid value. I try to come up with numbers on every player before I actually bet them. I made Sam Bennett plus 175 to get a goal, but that's Caesars plus 220, solid. Pinnacle plus 209, Botano plus 210. All these numbers I think are worthy of a half bet. So that's the guy that I'll be riding for game 1. And honestly, more games going forwards as well. I like to pick a guy like Wyatt Johnston, for example, with the Stars, where it's just like, let's bet him for a few games. Let's ride him. I think that he's due for some like positive regression. And Bennett's had a good playoffs. He just hasn't had like the scoring playoffs, right? He's got 4 goals and 3 assists, nothing crazy. But I think that this could be a coming out party for him because he's been very noticeable for the entire duration of the playoffs. He's just all over the place. And if he keeps getting chances, he'll pop one.
All right, so there you go. We got 3 official plays for this first game. We will recap them here quickly, just so people know, and then we'll go through them back at the end of the show, as I've got a couple more things to ask you guys before we wrap this one up. But 3 picks for Game 1 of the 2023 Stanley Cup Finals. Looking at pick number 1, we're going with Sam Bennett, anytime goal scorer over 0.5 goals, plus 220 for a half unit there. Jonathan Marchessault over 3.5 shots on goal, plus 125 for a half unit, as well as Jonathan Marchessault, anytime goal scorer, plus 180 for a full unit there on that one. So those are our 3 plays for game 1. I'll recap them again as we go to exit the show, but Rob, I want to ask you before we leave. So Money talked about some of the little different markets that he was looking at for series bets in this Stanley Cup Finals. Is there anything to you? I mean, we have a full day before we get into game 1 here, so people will have plenty of time to go and find these and get into some of these markets. Are there any markets to you that are jumping out that you're going to be looking at for some series-long bets for the finals this year?
The only one that stood out was Vegas to win the series 4-0. Which I really don't want to bet because I don't want to root for that. But I honestly think that there is often value in these types of wagers because people generally think that it just can't happen. Like, who would have thought Florida is going to win 4 straight against Carolina? Like, nobody is going to make that bet because they just convince themselves that it can't happen. And there's so much just random variance and bullshit basically in hockey that, like, you see this stuff happen all the time. So that's the one that stands out. And the only reason I said Vegas, because I think that in game one, again, I don't think that the rest actually helps Florida. You spin your own narrative, but the data suggests that long layoffs and long breaks for NHL teams is typically not great. In the playoffs, it's a little bit better. And I think it's because teams do get banged up in the playoffs. You get a little bit more time to heal than in the regular season. But overall, there is like a rust factor associated with that. Pretty much market-wide numbers that I've checked out. 4-0 Vegas was the only edge that I had on a series play. Aside from that, on a game-to-game, I will say that I think that these are two teams that could both be susceptible when having leads in terms of protecting the lead. One, in the sense that Florida, I think, is very good when trailing, where they just have a lot of, good offensive zone shifts. They'll cheat, they'll create chances. And I don't think that their defense is good enough when they're leading to survive like these onslaughts that Vegas can have on the cycle. So just particularly in game, I know we haven't seen a ton of comebacks in this playoffs, generally speaking, but teams falling behind 2 or 3 goals in these these series, I'll be very inclined to take live numbers on the team that's trailing, because I think both these teams are very solid when playing from behind.
All right, so there you go. And if you're looking for the picks that So Money, myself, and Alex B. Smith were looking at yesterday, you can find that on our series preview here on the Edgework channel in the NHL 2023 Stanley Cup Playoffs preview playlist that you can find there. You can watch all of them back from where we were ahead of round 1 all the way through to the Stanley Cup Final preview that we did yesterday. So make sure to go and check that out.
Did you guys get roasted in the comments yet for that one? I haven't seen it in full yet, but man, I love once the YouTube algorithm picks these up, you get like one fan base that's watches, like of the 1,000 views, 90% come from one fan base. And if you pick against that team, oh man, are you ever going to get roasted? And then they'll come back to tell you after the series was over how wrong you were on top of it. So I'm curious to see.
Yeah,
No, the one that stood out though, So Money, just from the comments yesterday, was Florida will win in 4. All 1-0 wins in overtime. Vegas is no match for Florida. That's what this comment said.
I think there's some gamesmanship in that one.
Yes.
I wouldn't take that one seriously. I did get one with a Panthers fans hating on us. We give no respect to the Panthers, and I mean, I was saying earlier, right? It's not about respect or disrespect. Like if the Panthers were plus 125 in game 1, like I would be betting the Panthers, right? Like there's no, it's just the way it is, right? And like, yeah, like I didn't expect the Panthers to beat Toronto, right? I didn't. I was getting worried about Carolina in that Florida series, but yeah, I mean, it's not that I hate the Panthers. Like I hate 31 teams. It's not just the Panthers that I hate.
Yeah, and like, listen, it's one cup run, right? Like, listen, I mean, this is why we watch sports, for stuff like this, because they just play it once and then you move on to next year, right? But like, if we played this playoffs over again, there's, Boston's probably going to win the series against Florida like 70% of the time, based off the way that series went, maybe 65%. It's you have to have, like, fan bases don't like to hear that their team got lucky, right? I liken it to when the Raptors won the NBA championship, right? Kawhi hits the shot against the 76ers. Kevin Durant gets injured in the finals. Like, it's okay to say you got lucky. Like, it happens. That's part of sports. Like, you don't have to be the best team to win. Ultimately, though, you win and you get to celebrate the win. But like, people find it so offensive when you say that a team got lucky. And it's like, okay, like how of all these games that Florida's won, their 12 wins, how many are they actually like expected to win based off of the quality of play that they had? I don't know, 6.5, 7. Like, they haven't had many dominating performances over the course of the playoffs. but they just find a way to pull it out. So it's the same thing I say with So Money. It's not like I'm disrespecting the Panthers. I just like call it as I see it. They could totally win this. And like, I would say it would be like one of the most opportunistic cup runs that I've seen in my lifetime. That doesn't take away from the fact that they won the cup, like, or that they could, right?
Honestly, I've been waiting 34 years, 35 years, whatever it is. Give me an opportunistic cup run. Give me something lucky, and I'll be totally happy. Yeah. Right? Like, I won't see anything about it. Just give me one lucky cup run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all you could ask for. That's all you could ask for. But recapping the picks from today here, looking back again quickly, Sam Bennett, anytime goal scorer, plus 220. Jonathan Marchessault, over 3.5 shots on goal, plus 125. Both of those are being played at a half unit. And then finally, Jonathan Marchessault, anytime goal scorer, a full unit there. And if you're looking to bet any of these, we highly recommend going to BetStamp to find the best odds, because we feel like the easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is by using multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. BetStamp, an odds and comparison tool like BetStamp, is the easiest way to do so. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Make sure to download the app today, which you can find on iOS, Android, as well as on the web. If you are looking to sign up for new sports books, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework, which you can find in the description of this video, pinned in the top of the live chat right now on YouTube, as well by scanning that QR code in the bottom corner of this YouTube video. Please make sure to check those links out to sign up for new sports books. It does help support the show. So thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Appreciate it. Rob, So Money, thank you guys for taking the time this Friday morning. Hopefully you guys enjoy your weekends. Enjoy game 1 tomorrow. We'll see everyone else in the chat back here on Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time to get you ready for game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final here between the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Enjoy your weekends. Thank you for tuning in, and good luck on your bets.